All right.
So,
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to State of Scrims. I am actually, now that I think about it, we probably didn't upload the last episode yet. So I actually don't know what episode number we're on. And while I'm saying that, I should probably go do that. But anyway, Gruer's back again.
I'm back.
Mason will be here when we do it Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays. Otherwise, not. So, that is part of it. Okay.
Happy to fill in when necessary.
It looks like we actually have a bit of a grace period before it just deletes my VOD. So that's always good. But if my sources are to be correct, surely I uploaded the power rankings to YouTube. I did. So this is episode 54? I don't know. I'm
What
thinking
was was
for
that
some
51?
that was 52 and we've done two since then.
And yeah,
So,
54.
yeah. I don't know. I think it would be funny once we hit 64 we do a bracket of like Dean outfit for all 64 and just vote every day and just which episode did I like look the best in or the worst. I think we can do a negative bracket too. Which was the most heinous, and we can rate the guests too. Which day of Mason was the worst? Did anyone completely like when you show up and it's just your profile picture, like is that bad? Do people like that? Do people not like that? Who knows? I was scrolling down the YouTube page and I saw the fucking thumbnail from hell. Hold on. Oh god, I forgot how bad.
I don't know Noam. I really don't.
Oh wait, I just oh, whoops, I changed the wrong capture. Hold on, I'm getting there. Yeah.
Yo, if anyone, by the way, little side quest, if anyone can name where I am at in my little background, they'll be my favorite person.
I know the game, but that's it.
That's not specific enough.
I
You
know,
gotta be
I
more
know.
specific than that.
If Peter was here, Peter would know. Peter's a an enthusiast for sure. But yeah, I'm just gonna swap to our video. I forgot to log the games because I'm a bad admin, so I will be doing that real quick. And if you have any thoughts on what has just general thoughts on what's transpired over the last few weeks or week or two or
First and
I don't know,
foremost,
whatever.
I predicted a Big Bananas 2-0, and they did not only did they not get a 2-0, they did not even win their series. Obviously, we can
Oof.
talk about it more later, but my apologies to Metabusters there. Frankly, maybe it should have been a 2-0 in their favor. We'll get to that, but um, I was wrong on that prediction, and I'll own that.
Yeah, I think that would be the one series that I didn't get around to watching this time around. Um, I very much could be wrong, but I think that's where I'm at in terms of being caught up. Life has been busy. I keep thinking that it's going to calm down and I will be able to be on top of everything, and it keeps not being able to happen. I'm sure some people out there can relate for sure, but it is what it is. All I will say is that I was completely right the entire time. I said that Metabusters were going to 2-1, and it happened. So, throw me beads or whatever people do when you're right about things.
Well, I had my reasons, Noam, but I understand why you would be mad.
All right, what's Noam saying in chat? I'm
He's just said
illiterate.
he's glad he didn't watch the previous podcast because he would have been very mad had he heard my 2-0 prediction, which
Okay,
is
but
fair.
Noam,
But
I
I
predicted you
also,
winning, so it balances out. You have to have controversy or things aren't exciting.
yeah, I'll save my thoughts on why till we get to the review. But there were reasons, Noam, and there were things that I could not have predicted that would have transpired, and it happens.
I feel like I really missed a banger
You
series.
did.
Oh
That was
shit.
definitely probably the best series I've watched so far this season. The game one in particular was
Okay.
the most entertaining game I've watched so far. Um,
Yeah.
as a
I don't know.
topic, I'll get your opinion on this actually, Dean.
Yep.
I feel like so far, even though there's been close series, like 2-1s, things like that, I
Yeah.
don't feel like there's been very many close games. It feels like games are pretty stompy one way or the other, and I don't think that's both in this server and just in general right now in League. But I found that to be true. It seems like even when the series is a 2-1, the three games are typically kind of stompy.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even really think of any like nail biter games, and I think that kind of extends even to like signups. I feel like that's also true. I haven't feel like most of them haven't been particularly close, but I don't know. I feel like one team just kind of gets a lead and takes off, and there you go. Kind of the end of the story. I'm not sure why that is. I wonder if it's like the new Otacon or something, but not sure
I
if you have
think
any thoughts
so,
there. Could also
maybe.
just be the type of champions that are popular in the meta, but I'm
Yeah,
not too
I'm not
sure about that.
100% sure. I think maybe you can point to things like the Otacon, but I don't know. I really don't. It doesn't feel like it should be as bad as it is, but it's not like people aren't picking scaling that you can kind of come back with. But I don't know. You did miss the one game that was that, which was the BB Metabusters game one.
Oh, okay. So I'm just
That one,
lying
that
on
one, that
main
one
then.
truly was a nail biter.
Okay, okay. I'm glad that that's not completely absent. I don't know. I don't know if anyone saw the little kind of standings blurb I dropped in season discussion earlier. So actually, this week's kind of the first crossover we have between. I feel like conferences is like a decent sports analogy for those of who are traditional sports enjoyers, but we kind of had like like two sets of four groups of teams who weren't really interacting much with each other. And I obviously, as Circle of Suck tends to exist, it's not always that the better team is going to win every time. So you can't really rank teams just by individual match results, especially because people have inconsistencies like. Especially with rosters changing and stuff. Just because a team wins one time doesn't mean that they're automatically better than their opponent or anything like that. But I think
Yeah, I'm a
these
huff that
matches,
copium too.
I've been ejecting it quite often, but I don't know. I just think we'll get to see how these two halves of the league compare to each other over these next few matches, and I think it is going to be quite exciting. We got our first taste of that with Qualmless Chillers versus New York Nutbusters. That was 2 days yesterday.
That was yesterday. That was
Yesterday.
yesterday. It was a fun
Okay.
series.
I get confused with all these like Tuesday and Wednesday games. I just feel like games like should not be played there, like what's going on? That's right during the middle of my work week. I have no time to watch. But I don't know. I think that series I did get to watch because I had to go back and stitch it back together and get it uploaded and stuff today. So, it took a little vacation to make sure I got that viewed. Obviously, didn't do everything right as I'm still getting the games fully logged in right now, but give me a second. I'll be able to snap
Well,
fully back
as
into
I
it.
fill time it, I will say yes, Bean, you are correct. That is actually the end of the Shatters, the OG version, back when I played the game, back when it was good. So yes, you are correct, Bean. You are now my favorite person.
Oh, shit.
So good job on that.
Well, huge points for being there. Let me hard refresh the website and boom. Okay, all the games are in, and now we get to kick it over to where we want to be in our precious game review time. So we actually only have four series this
Oh,
time. We are still slightly out of sync with the weeks. I'm hoping to kind of dial that back in and do the podcast more so on Tuesday or Wednesday, but given my own personal schedule, that might be pretty hard. So we'll just kind of have to see how that works out. But we started this week off with Qualmless Chillers versus Rift Sharks. On the podcast, we both predicted ourselves 2-0. I mean, full disclosure, I was not really that confident going into the series. I hinted at it a little bit going forward. I expected us to do better than this. I definitely underestimated Qualmless Chillers. I think them taking the loss to One Thief the first week, I feel like kind of changed expectations for them. Just kind of overall, I feel like that was the vibe, but they definitely ran a more consistent roster in week 2 and week 3, and I think this is the roster that most people were expecting them to run, especially as it was listed as their starting roster, and I think it is a little bit stronger. We saw a roster very similar to this one come out in week 1, but it showed up in game 3, and I think a lot of those players weren't warm, and I think that kind of detracted from them. But now with QC locking in and playing this roster, they look quite strong. And I honestly do not think Rift Sharks had our best showing here.
yeah, I'm not gonna say I underestimated them. I expected them to come in and play really well. and they did. I do think that Jakar and Rat playing together is probably their strongest roster. Regardless of who else is around there, I think those two players are so dynamic, especially considering the fact that I mean, I knew that Rat could play mid and 80 carry. I didn't know that he could also go jungle before that series. I didn't know that Jakar, well, I figured Jakar could play multiple roles, but I didn't know that they'd be willing to put him mid. So they've shown a lot of role flexibility as well as champion flexibility. They're going to continue to be a very hard team to draft against. And yeah, I thought they played really, really well. I thought we played poorly, just to be blunt. I mean, I don't know. I call it how I see it, and I'm not gonna like withhold that from my own team. So I think our team played pretty poorly, like just straight up. I thought in game one we had some moments, especially Evan. I thought Evan played really well in game one, and I thought I did okay. But game two, Chris did pretty good in game two, but otherwise I thought we all did kind of poorly, and I think they outdrafted us in both games, and just a really, really strong showing from QC, and we didn't bring our A game, and that's why it wasn't even really close.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say too much about our failures because I think we can figure that out internally. I wouldn't ask that of anybody hopping on the podcast unless they were willing to disclose that themselves. But definitely have some points that we know where to improve. So I think you should expect to see a bit of an improved Rift Sharks coming back. That said, our opponent is One Thief, who is undefeated so far. So I think going into that game cocky would be super foolish. I don't think I'm out here saying, oh, we're just going to like absolutely wipe the floor with them. I think they're a super intimidating team, but we know what we need to work on. So I would hope that we at least have a better showing than we did that's last week. But huge respect to Qualmless Chillers. I mean, Rat dropping basically identical score lines in both games, like 12-3, 13, 13-3, 10. Like he absolutely wiped the floor with us. I don't really have any other way to put it. Chow going 4-3 each game. I feel like they played super well around him. Definitely strong sided top. Were able to find advantages by punishing Chris at times, and then just making sure that Chow is able to rotate towards basically every fight they need to be there for. Their ability to just have all their players at every fight that they need to be there for was super impressive, and that's definitely something that a lot of Scrim Zone teams struggle with. So it was promising to see that come out from them.
One thing, yeah, I think there's 2 points I want to say before I'm kind of done with things on this one. But so first off, I think that what most impressed me is I expected Drakar and Rat to perform really well. That really wasn't a shock. As I said, the role swapping was a little bit of a surprise, but I expected them to do really well. I was, impressed by the other guys. Like I thought Chow, Kage, and Paul Lim all played at an extremely high level. And if all five are going to play at that level, they're going to be a difficult team to beat. Just straight up, you're going to have to bring your best. And one thing I've noticed both in this series as well as in the series against New York Nutbusters, I think that Qualmless Chillers has a really good understanding of, when they can fight and when they can kind of push their advantage. And if you're not also reading the game state extremely well, you'll walk into a fight that you should not have taken. And if they know that they can beat you, if they know they can be invading you, if they know they can like play at the limit, they're going to do it, is what I've kind of gathered so far. So you have to be really on your toes about, is this a fight we take? Do we pass this fight and play the next one? And yeah, I thought that, I don't know, they were really on form, and drafts are well. You saw another Smolder win. I think at this point in the week, Smolder had still not lost.
Yeah.
Continues to look like a very strong champion. Yeah, that's kind of what I have there.
Has it lost? Oh, it did.
It did lose. It did lose yesterday. One game.
Didn't
I believe
lose
it was
the series
7-0.
though, and they played it
I believe
every
it was
game.
7-0 before it lost. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
My math is right. So the champion is looking very strong. I think you've seen answers into it.
I think clearly
the Twitch pike did not work as an answer.
Jury's out on why that was particularly.
Hey, my teammate says I want this. I'm always gonna be like, I trust you. Let's send it. It didn't work that time. And sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. Ignore the 2-7 Annie. That was not our greatest showing. I thought that. I think we were kind of at a disadvantage in draft, especially game two, we ended up with a pretty
Yeah.
poor draft. Game one, I think draft was okay, just didn't play it super well, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there are drafts that pass the eye test. Like you look at it and you're like, yeah, like you don't like. There's no analytics going on or anything. You just look at it and you're like, this is bad, and that's exactly what happens in that second game. Like
I
I don't know.
I will say, I don't know if you're monitoring the chat. I am. We've now had both. There's been two chatters now that have specifically requested some thought process behind the Pike pick. I'm not sure if you want to expand on that for the people.
I want to have fun. I don't know.
He wanted to
Champs,
have fun.
champs
We wanted to have
entertaining.
fun. That I like that answer.
I don't know. I just like
You heard it here.
there were a lot of champions that could have fit there. I feel like Pike has easiest access onto Smolder. Uh, you know, didn't work out that way.
Mason, that's not the Dardock special. The Dardock special is pick me and lose in peace. We said
Right.
pick us and let's have some fun. There's a difference.
Yeah. Also, the difference is like the Dardock is pick me whatever. I specifically requested the Pike. It just didn't fucking work. I
Yes.
don't know.
Hey, you did have that one fight where you reset a few times. That was
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think the like lack of skill on Pike was the issue there. I think Pike was just not the pick.
I mean, that's the hardest. I'll just say this. That's one of the hardest series ass whoopings I've been on the receiving end of
Well,
in the
okay,
server.
that's you talking though. You like never fucking lose.
That's true, but I'm just saying. I
I've
don't
had some
typically lose like
stinkers.
that. That was a tough
Yeah.
series.
This is like 60th percentile of ass whoopings I've had. You know, about on par. We've had much worse. Oh my god. Anyway, moving on. One thief
Yeah.
versus Skaven. I
I
mean, when
actually
it's
didn't really see this one because it was at the
yeah,
same time as ours.
this one I watched, but I kind of spaced out a little bit. I don't know. I think just looking at it, if you're able to pick Twitch mid and go 13-2, I think that kind of tells you all you need to. I
I
think
will
it
say,
is just looking at the drafts and like I'm not gonna like I had the stream pulled up. I was like not during my series obviously, but after the fact I went through and watched all of it. It was hard to stay focused with how one-sided it was for the most part. There were moments in the series where it looked like it was going to be close, but I mean, just great showing from everyone across the board first game, and the first game was more competitive for sure. I think it is really hard to win with SKT's draft though. You have kind of like the double mage bot side going, and like I just feel like Tryndamere and Kiana aren't really the sustained DPS you need, especially into a Scion. It didn't really get to the point where Scion was just 1v9ing the game, but if it got late enough, that almost for sure was going to happen if the game didn't go how it did. It was great to see Sam get to play. I feel like he had a lot of good plays. It was tough in the second game how he got both the kills and Honan ended up going 0-7, but I think it is just tough. I feel like Honan has a really good ADC pool, and it feels like they almost pigeonholed themselves into these kind of repeated Vigar Zareth picks when I know these players both have a bigger champion pool that they are comfortable and can play well on. It kind of seemed like, oh, well, they're letting us have these picks, so we should lock them in. I think more experimenting from Skaven could help them out a little bit just because they have been losing. I think you can try other stuff instead of kind of repeating things that haven't gone as well. That said, I think Lithi played a really good series on the Vigar. That might not be the thing to change, just from my personal opinion. And I think Sam had a really good showing on both his champions too, but I don't know.
I think the positive for SKT is that I think it was a better showing than they had week one. So, I mean, I think it was an improvement there.
Yep. Unbiased.
I thought actually had a really nice game on the Tryndamere. Just looking at the score line, the stat line, like had so much farm. It was definitely a threat. I don't really love the team composition in game one.
Yeah.
I think like this is the second time that Apari has played Kiana, and both times it's been into Talia. It was into my Talia, and then it was into Sarver's Talia. That is not a champion you want to play Kiana into, like just straight up.
I mean,
And
okay, there's like the Kiana Talia meme where you get like the Giga Ultimate where it like covers the entire map, but that's
okay,
good
but
when
like
your
just
mid laner is
don't.
the Talia, not when you're playing into a Talia. Let's just be clear about that.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. It's a hard. I don't know. I also think Dave and Bean have really shown. Well, we've already discussed that Smolder's strong, and Bean has played it with the Zillion now again. I think that's a strong pairing. I liked what we saw some from SKT, but I mean, One Thief's a really good team. That was always going to be a hard matchup for them. Um, I'd still like to see maybe Nevada play at some point, hopefully. I do think that Nevada and mid lane will give them a little bit more of an aggressive pick. Not that Lithy's like playing super poorly or anything, but I think maybe it would help their team if their mid laner was playing more of an aggressive style. Maybe that would free up a little bit of pressure on some of the other players and would maybe help out Apari a little bit too. But
Also, Nevada does have
yeah,
a sick Talia, and the Talia Kiana combo could come out on the same team. Who knows?
yeah.
I think
They'll
some of it
also
is definitely like availability gated though for SKT, so we'll kind of have to see what roster they end up running. Their next game is
yeah.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Potential
Who are
chance
they
of me
playing?
getting to cast that one. We'll see. They're playing BB, and
Okay.
given that it's a Friday, I'm pretty sure that means Mason can't play. So we'll kind of have to see what the roster coming out from BB is, but should be an interesting series for sure.
For game two, not too much to say. I mean, you saw the Zillion come out again and look really, really good.
Yeah, Jonah was
That
like
pick has been annoying,
unkillable
but
all game.
and the AP Twitch thing, like I can talk about that more later, but that pick has now won more than once. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna get my ass kicked by AP Twitch when we play against One Thief this next week, but I still think the pick is kind of fake. Um,
Yeah.
it's just like if it snowballs, there's really little counterplay. It feels like because it just does a lot of bursts really quickly. But I think if teams could find a way to kind of not give it kills in the early game, it won't be as insane. Like if it's like an even game state.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if you'd want it over some other things on like an even game state, but it's looked really strong so far. I've not like personally played it yet, so maybe it's stronger than I'm giving it credit for. It is winning games, and at a certain point, it's like hard winning games. I don't know. Maybe I'm being like a boomer in the mid lane when I'm saying like this can't be real,
Yeah.
but it's looking good. So I don't know.
Oh well, something has been logged to the void. That's no good. I'll have to figure that out. Did want to look at our Twitch mid all time, just out of curiosity. It has been played 3 times and has not lost a single time. Sarvis has whipped it out twice, or Fujer's whipped it out twice. Sarvis the once, um, but I don't know. Fujer, this actually was also this season. Oh, this is actually only
Yeah,
this season. If we
that
expand
was
it
yeah.
to all time, Stav played it into you and lost. Sarvis played it into Deary and won. Thomas played it and absolutely annihilated. I mean, not as strong as some of these more recent picks, but this was before the current meta too. Cam's played it twice. Going 17 and 13 on it is really hard to consider a loss, especially when, oh my God, what the fuck happened in this game? Oh my goodness. I feel like everyone on Green Team has a positive scoreline and they still lost the game. Uh,
Somehow.
Noam's in chat. I'll have to have him answer for that one, but um, Jesus. Okay, going to mid lane all time, it is 7-2, 78% win rate. So, one of the better picks in
It's
the servers.
who
And
knows?
maybe you just don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Maybe I need to play it. Well, who
Yeah.
knows? Who
Well,
knows what'll happen?
Gwen
But
mid is even better, so you better pull that out. 9-2, highest win rate mid lane pick,
I
unless you
think one of
count
those
all the
has to be.
100% with only 3, which Sivir mid is undefeated, by the way. So go figure that out. Um,
Oh, you're one of them.
yeah, so is Cam. I think Cam should have gotten a penta that game, but I think it was stolen. I'm pretty sure he taxed Raptors once and got his penta stolen for it. I think if you go to the pins, there should be like a meme where it's like trade off for my Raptors your penta. That was that game, just for ball knowledge purposes. But yeah,
Interesting. Well,
Anyway, then we get to
back to the
BB
game.
versus
Yeah.
Metabusters. So I need your rundown on this. I was not tuned in. I
Okay,
apologize.
this was a really, really fun series. Game one, I thought the Metabusters had a really intelligent draft, and also I think it took everyone by surprise that they flexed Snow, or excuse me, they flexed Snow to jungle and Noam to bot lane.
Yeah,
As
I
you can kind
wouldn't
of,
have seen that
as
coming.
evidenced by the fact that Big Bananas banned out Lucian, Varus, and Jin in the first phase. So clearly they were thinking it was probably going to be Snow bot lane, but they did this flex. They put Noam on the Ziggs. I thought he played pretty well. Snow had an absolutely insane game on the Zed. So I think they picked Zed, and then Taxi countered with Lysandra, and then they end up just last picking Victor. So they end up countering the Lysandra because personally, I don't think Lysandra's a very good blind pick. I don't really think the pick's that good in general, but it's not a good blind pick. The Victor got a lot of work done. They gave Korn his Darius. Him and Nishan were just like fighting the entire game. Um, but ultimately, Will just came online on the Unara pick and just, I mean, they like base defense more than once. I think at the very end, they went like Nexus to Nexus basically to win after like wiping them. Um, it was a pretty crazy game. There was like one point where I think Snow stole the Baron. Like they all died except Snow, and then Snow like still secured the Baron maybe, or then also was like just keeping them in the game even once Will had scaled. But ultimately Will just was too much on the Unara pick, and I thought did really well. You go into game two, and that time I actually think Big Bananas had a pretty decent advantage. Taxi did well in lane. Mason was playing pretty well on the volley bear, but you see Noam's scoreline. That the Mel ended up being a much better answer bot lane than the Ziggs
Uh,
was into the Unara. And at a certain point, it seemed like they couldn't deal with the range of Corki plus Mel. Um, Interestingly, they went for like the Trundle counter pick into the Ornn. I don't think that counters as hard as before. It used to, maybe like seasons past. I don't know. It didn't seem like it actually got that much work done. It kind of just pushed some turrets, but I don't know. I feel like a few seasons ago, if someone like counterpicked Ornn with Trundle, it'd kind of be a little scarier than that ended up being. And they kind of just got him there. And then if I recall correctly, game three was the AP Twitch incident, and they kind of just got wiped. But it was a fun
yeah,
series.
that
Game one
appears
was
to
the
be
most
it.
entertaining game I've seen of like any series so far. But game three, yeah, like Mason, I'm just gonna call Mason out. He blew Twitch's flash at like level three, but then instead of just like taking the flash, went under the turret and dove him. And it's like, yeah, they gave Taxi first blood, but Twitch picked up a kill, and then it just seemed like at that point Twitch just snowballed. Um, Fujer got the MVP that series, and I think that game. I think rightfully so. Like he played a really good game, but also Snow was so strong on the Nocturne. Was just like constantly ulting Taxi and was making it like really difficult for him to play. And yeah, that game ended up not being super close. So this new MetaBusters roster and switch up has looked really strong. I had no idea personally that
Mhm.
Snow could jungle, and especially jungle at such a high level, including on like some very mechanical picks like the Zed and the Lee Sin. I mean, I think at one point the Lee Sin had a pretty crazy like insect play. Nocturne obviously not too mechanical, but just coming into this role that I was not aware of, at least because I was not familiar with Snow before this season, and just really performing like this, it's given their team like a whole new look. And now I think it's really interesting. I'll be curious to see if they're just going to like stick with this permanently, or if maybe it'll be like more of a matchup thing where maybe they might feel like Snow would be better suited to go bot lane, or just stick with them jungle. I don't know, but good showing by Metabusters. BB a little bit disappointing. I was really hoping Game Three was going to be like a banger with how the first two games went, and it kind of just went out sad. But overall, still a fun series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll obviously have to catch up and watch it, but I think it's super interesting that Metabusters were able to swap the rosters there. I think this is something that I'd said. Like, I feel like I remember having this conversation with Jacob or Noam at some point that they could have no one play ADC and do well. I certainly wasn't expecting to go this well for him. Like if you look across the last 2 games, he literally went 16-1. That's absurd.
That's an insane
But
performance against Will too, and Will and Eden had just come off a really good
yeah,
series against Hong and Jeremy, so that's not easy competition by any means. And yeah, Noam had an insanely impressive series.
yeah. So I don't know. I think it will stand to see if Snow just kind of matches into the best side of the map, because I think having Noam and Jacob match into Will and Eden, who I think maybe Metabusters feel are the weaker part of Big Bananas, just so that they can have kind of strong players match into strong players and kind of work that out. Or if it's going to be this is just the roster that they run, we'll kind of just have to let time tell then. They are playing Qualmless Chillers this week. Qualmless has a doubleheader. They just got off their game versus Nutbusters, and they are going to be playing Metabusters on Monday, so that should be pretty exciting. And again, that is another roster where I feel like the jungle is the strong point, so we could see Snow show up in the jungle again. I'm not sure what your thoughts are there.
Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. Who knows what either roster will do? They've both shown like flex potential at this point. I would think if Qualmless is going to run a similar roster to what they have done, I would probably you'd want to see Snow go jungle. I think that could be pretty exciting, especially if they're comfortable playing these like really high mechanical champs like the Zed, and you're going up against somebody like Jakar who's happy to play those champs as well. Has actually had the Zed banned against him most of the time. That'll be a fun series, and you know without like having the remaining schedule in front of me,
Yeah,
just
I will pull it up in a
my
sec, but
opinion,
yes.
my opinion, I think, is that Metabusters is probably the toughest opponent that Qualmless Chillers has left.
Oh, they have. I was literally just talking to Blake about this. Metabusters, BB, SKT, and Inferno. So my personal take is if Qualmless isn't going to go 6-1, they're going to drop a series to Metabusters or Big Bananas. Metabusters did get the edge out in this series, but I think Big Bananas has more room to grow than Metabusters do, just in terms of how recently the roster was formed. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I don't know if you
Yeah.
share that opinion or not.
Uh, yeah, I think Metabusters is. Yeah, I would agree. The form that I've seen from SKT and Alberts, I don't think they really have what it takes to take on QC right now, unless they really level up between now and then. I
Yeah, I mean,
definitely
I
think.
think if those are later season matches, then I think things could look a little better for sure.
Yeah, you
But
never know. Like, and there's still a lot. Like, other teams haven't like shown their full roster potential either. There's teams that haven't even put their subs in yet. You never know what things can look like. But yeah, no, I think Metabusters versus QC will probably be a really exciting series. Um, I would expect that one to go 3 games based on the form I've seen from both teams, and that'll just be a really exciting one all around. I think, especially if Chow plays top lane, I'd love to see Chow go up against Korn. I think that'd be a really fun
ooh,
matchup.
yes.
Obviously, as I've
Obviously,
already
because
said,
they are both four-letter names that start with a C. No other reason.
yeah, it's kind of got to figure out if Chow's coming to take Korn's spot as the top 4-letter guy with a name that starts with C in the top
Yeah,
lane
yeah.
specifically. Um, so I don't know. That's going to be a banger. That will be. I'm excited to see more from Noam, especially if he continues to play in the bot lane. I thought he's looked really good on those mages. I'm curious, like, is that going to continue to be his priority? Now, he obviously did show that Ezreal in game 3, um, but I don't know. It's cool having a player down there that can, play the mages, play the AD carries, gives your team a lot of flexibility. Fuzier himself has already shown he can play mages, he can play AD carries. So definitely like hard team to draft against, a fun team to like see what they're cooking up. I will say, credit to Fuzier. He picks the Twitch. Is this like the first time that Metabusters has actually busted the meta in a while? If we're not calling Twitch mid-meta, I don't know.
I mean, I think Fujer
But,
playing Ezreal jungle last season definitely counts, but
oh, I forgot. Didn't he lose that game though? I think I wiped that one out. But
yes, so you mean successfully busted the meta?
like successfully busted the
Okay,
meta.
here
Yes.
we'll just all time team format games from Fujer. just because I feel like he has been on the roster most consistently. This all looks pretty standard. I mean, Kale mid, I feel like is a bit of a stretch.
Uh,
Ish.
I don't think so. I think Skelman's
No?
pretty good.
Okay.
Dushini
Um,
played a really good series of Kale.
I just feel like it's not common, though, in terms of like what you see people play.
Maybe not. Yeah, not like. Yeah, it's more meta than some things.
Yeah, Ezreal Jungle is like the most recent one. But that also was a while. Like I just scrolled a bunch there, so I don't know.
It's
Okay,
hard. It's hard to meta bust and win when you're
yeah,
playing against such quality teams every week. So
yeah.
that was kind of it was a joke, but I'm
No, no,
excited
no.
for
I'm
that. And
I'm
then I
dead
think that left
serious.
us with just yesterday's series. Unless you had
Yep.
any other thoughts there.
No, I don't think so. And I think we can kind of touch more on what we were talking about with Rift QC as we get into this series. Like in game one, especially, like I feel like New York Nutbusters, if you just watch what their champions do on the screen, they played this series incredible. Or this game incredibly. The problem is they would hit layer after layer of literally perfect engage. Alex hits the right target with his ultimate. PB goes in, hits like the freaking 4-man magnet storm, and then Alana goes in, hits everybody with the ultimate. Mike like drops his ult at the exact right time to dodge like critical damage. Blake comes in with the Scion after, hits everyone, and then all five of them are dead and QC like loses one member. And it's just like you watch those fights, and it was kind of as you were saying before, like QC just knows when they can take fights, and it kind of doesn't matter how well you play the fights if QC knows they're going to win, because every single time NYMB was just getting absolutely toasted. I mean, Alex and PB had a really good start to this game. I got a lot of kills fed onto the Varus. It just kind of ultimately didn't end up mattering. Because they just weren't able to get basically any kills onto anyone else to get the train rolling there.
Yeah,
Chow
I
actually
don't.
built Deadman's Plate on Akali first this game. So it was really interesting to just see him chasing around the fight. He still got 6 kills as like a off tank Akali. I don't know. It was just gross. You have a Kha'Zix resetting everywhere. It just, oh,
I honestly though I kind of disagree with you. I actually don't think they got that many good engages in large part because of Rat. I mean, I don't know. No, it's not that they didn't get good engages. I think PB actually found some good engages throughout that game onto critical members. However, if he wasn't threatening Rat, Rat was consistently landing multi-man stuns, which was denying like any follow-up. Um, and I think at one, I think so. The game was like pretty close at first, and I remember it pretty vividly. I think they did a really good job of protecting Mike's jungle in the early game. If you'll recall, that game actually started with Drakkar
yeah.
trying to invade the Gromp and just dying to the bot lane. Like Alex and PB alone walked up and killed him. And I thought they did a great job protecting the Kane early. It allowed Mike to actually stay even or a little bit ahead in farm. But as we've said, this team on QC's side just knows when they're able to fight. And there was a time where, I don't remember, like 15-ish minutes, they invaded the blue buff. New York
Yeah.
Nutbusters
Dragon,
decided we're
Dragon
we're
was
making
up.
a stand here. They were like, we're
Yeah.
gonna make a stand here. PB flashes in on like a group of three. Critically, Rat is not in that group of three. He hits a stun on to like Mike, Alana, and maybe Alex as well. They get wiped, and from there the game felt really hard to play. I thought New York Nutbusters continued to try to be creative. There were some times where I thought Blake had some creative angles, but it would maybe burn Rat's flash, or at one point I think they had a pretty insane Taric ult that came down and kind of saved everyone.
Yep.
But what I didn't like about their draft, I think if you look at paper, like it's a fine draft. What I didn't like about it was when you considered putting Mike on Kane versus what he had played in their previous 4 wins, it was way less power in the early game. And I think they struggled with Mike not having the ability to influence the game until it was a little bit out of hand. Alex and PB had a nice early game. Blake did fine on, I mean, he's playing Scion,
Yeah.
but Alana really struggled into Rat. That's a hard matchup for Aurora. And frankly, I mean, I think Rat's just a caliber of player that's able to punish if you're not really good in your laning. And with Mike also then being on a champion that's kind of weak early game, it's just there. And I think what also tells you the Kane is a very punishable champion is, I mean, you've got Drakkar on the other side who, like his most played champions, Kane, I believe, all the way to like Masters or Grand Masters, and it's like this champion's wide open. He's not picking it. If the champion was broken, he'd be picking it.
Yeah.
Clearly, the champion is like abusable. It slipped all the way down to like the red 4 pick. Like, it, and you saw the Kazakhs came through. I think Rat got MVP in that game and played an extremely good game. So MVP was justified. But I
Mhm.
thought Drakkar as well really impressed
Oh my
me
god, yeah,
that game.
absolutely heinous activity on the bug. It was
Yeah, did
brutal.
did some crazy, and that's not a pick that you see very often. Like Kazakhs is not a pick you see very often. And yeah, I mean, Rat said it in chat right now. Like Drakkar was hoping he'd pick the Kane because Kazakhs is an insane counter, and I, Mike is a good Kane player. Like he's had great Kane performances in the past, but that was just a hard spot. It did not work. Um, and then when you move to game two, though, Nutbusters bounced back really, really well. I liked what they went for. They made sure to get Blake, one of his like priority picks. They picked the Mordekaiser on 3 that time instead of allowing it to be banned in the second phase. And I think it gave them a lot of fits. You also saw, instead of the Varus counter pick come through for the Smolder, Alex went back to his like other most popular pick, which is the
Yes.
Caitlyn, and
Love it.
played an extremely good game. PB went with the Tom Kinch and was able to like constantly save his teammates from the dive of the Akali, from the dive of the Wukong. And I thought their draft was just so much more comfortable for them, it seemed like. You also had Mike last pick the Viego that time instead of blind picking. I don't necessarily think Viego's that great of a pick into Wukong, but Mike's just so comfortable on that champion, and it gives him the ability to scrap a little bit earlier than the Kane, that it just seemed really comfortable for them. And I mean, frankly, I mean they kind of went belt to ass that game, like just in the same way Qualmas Chillers had whooped them. They came back game two and played a really really strong game, and I wasn't expecting that after game one. I'll just be honest. Like I was going into the series hopeful it'd be super close, but after game one, I was kind of nervous for them. And then in game two, they came back with an insane game. Like, it's just really strong stuff. And I don't know what your thoughts were on game two, but I was just so
Yeah, I
impressed.
mean, it
And
was just
oh,
kind
but the
of,
one other thing was Smolder lost finally. Thank God.
yeah.
Like this champion is strong. It is not unbeatable. I'm glad it was finally shown that this champion can lose. And I thought the Caitlyn pick was executed to perfection. And yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on game two.
Yeah, I mean, I think just across the board, everyone was on like Giga Comfort. I mean, PB was probably more comfortable on Rel than he was on Tom Kench, but besides that, I think everyone has a noted improvement in just their familiarity with their champions going into it. I think this comp from QC is like a little bit less of what we've come to expect just from this roster. Obviously, it's only been like a 3-game sample so far, but usually we see Paul M on like a more tanky defensive champion. I feel like the Karma's a bit of a stray from that play style. Drakar's Wukong isn't something that's new per se, but his success on like the more assassin-y type champions like the Kazakhs and Silas is definitely something that's not really carried over to the Wukong. It's a more team fight oriented champ where you're trying to hit multiple targets at once, whereas the Silas and Kazakhs are looking to just blow up individual targets. Just little differences there. The Chow Rat Akali flex is really smart, and that's going to be a huge pain in the ass to draft into for other teams, especially when
Yeah.
you consider in game 3, Chow played it again with the AP build. So it's not like the Akali top is something he has to build defensive on and try and work around. They're pretty just happy to blind that pick. Everyone else should just pray that they don't make Akali jungle viable, because then you'll just have to ban the champion. But I don't know. I feel like Nutbusters had a much better read on the draft. They were kind of able to figure some things out. They adapted to do a Taric ban instead of the Ashe ban. They realized that Rat's probably not going to go ADC here. Good adaptation from them. And I don't know, just across the board, a lot of success on their picks. I feel like Nar can have a good time in a Mordekaiser. This game, he most clearly didn't. But kind of going on to game 3, I feel like QC had kind of the same draft revelations going into it. Here they actually grabbed the Mordekaiser on blue 2.
And ban the
Blake
Tom Kench.
could have picked it away, but he wouldn't have been able to kind of cover ban it, and he ended up going with the Anivia counter into the Akali, which Honestly, at the beginning of the game was pretty successful. I don't think Mordekaiser's Drakar's most comfortable pick. There were a couple of times during the game where he ulted and actually stole himself away from objectives and wasn't able to secure them because he was in the death realm. But I think if he's able to get a couple more reps on this pick, it's going to be super duper scary. But it did what it needed to in this comp, and that was deny it from Blake
Yeah.
because they didn't want to have to ban Yunara, Kench, Malzahar, and Mordekaiser. You do have to give one up, and being able to just pick it in the jungle and do fairly well on it was pretty good. But yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like Rat again just performing insanely well. Had a few solo kills on Alana during the game. As you said, just a caliber of player that can just punish these lanes, find leads individually, and we're back to the Smolder just not really being punishable. The Braum helped him out a lot more than the Karma did. I feel like just being able to get in the way and just physically block some of the damage and stop some
Yeah.
people from closing in, whereas the Karma plays a little farther back and just I don't know, the Akali top lane just fits their play style so much more. I feel like Chow tends to just kind of roam into fights, and Akali's able to do that a little more freely. Nar, if you do it right, he can have super high impact, but there is a like pretty sharp level of mastery required to be able to manage your rage accurately enough to have the right impact you need. Because there's some fights where you need to be mini, some where you need to be big, some where you need to start big and make sure that you end up mini in them, and the opposite. And you know, if you're just getting wailed on by a Mordekaiser and Viego every fight, it can be tough, especially if mini Nar is allowing Viego to start the reset chain. It can just be a tough spot.
Yeah, I thought Qualmas Chillers bounced back from a pretty hard game two into a really strong game three. As you said, I think the Mordekaiser steal away was really intelligent. I assume that probably could have went top or jungle. So, you take that early and then you kind of have the flex power there, as well as the Akali obviously being a flex. I thought the Braum did well. That was like the one game of the three. Even in the first game when they won, their bot lane still lost early, like got solo killed, I believe, by Alex and PB.
Yeah,
Game three was
Dart
like the
started
game where
3-0.
Kage and Paul really did not get punished in lane outside of a little bit of a farm advantage that they eventually like, evened up. Um, and yeah, like as you said, Rad had a really, really good game on the Yasuo. Um, Frankly, I think Yasuo's not that good into Aurora. Like I think Aurora actually can do pretty well into Yasuo. Maybe that's just my opinion. I'm not 100. I don't know the stats on that matchup, but like my opinion is Aurora can win that matchup. But you have to play it really well. As with any Yasuo matchup, it's kind of ultimately a skill matchup. There was like one point where Rat was like proxying the mid wave, which is just so insane. But I think what was hard for Big or for Nutbusters this series, this was the first time in their three series that I think they played against a mid laner that can truly just absolutely punish you out of the game, like in the lane. That's no disrespect to Fuzier, and that's no disrespect to, I believe it was Omar they played against, but Rat's just on a different level than those two players when it comes to like playing aggressively in the lane. I think at one point in game three, he had a 1,000 gold advantage that was just like purely off of farm.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there was like a
Unfortunately, I
50
just,
CS gap. It was like 106 to
yeah.
63 or something at one point. Like
And
it was rough.
just like frankly that shouldn't happen, but
Yeah.
I mean, just to be fair to Alana, like they're having to play into a Masters player
Yeah.
who's really comfortable on these aggressive picks, that has a jungler that's like backing him up if you ever do try to punish him. So I think that was just always going to be a difficult matchup. And as you saw in the first and third game, I think the mid pressure that Rat was able to put out was just too much for their team to overcome. They chose to ban the Malzahar all three games. Um, I thought Alana the previous week when Aurora was banned had looked really good on the Malzahar, and they took that away. So then you're kind of stuck with going to the Aurora, but Aurora is a lot easier to punish than a Malzahar, and I thought they just did a very good job with that. But overall, like a really fun series. I think Nutbusters looked competitive even in some of the games they've lost or the games they did lose, and I'm really excited to see more from them. I'd be excited to see this series as a rematch. I will say, I think if they do ever find this rematch, you know, I think they'll want to try to find something that maybe can go a little bit better in mid lane. I'm not sure if they'd ever even consider potentially like flexing Blake into mid lane. I know he has done that in the past and he can perform really well, but just as I said, I think Rat just showed that with the laning prowess that he had in those matchups, was able to just create such a big advantage that ultimately it was kind of hard for Nutbusters to try to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of add on to that. I feel like if Chow's willing to just play the Akali, I think maybe top lane isn't so safe either. Especially if you're going to pick the Aurora, it's just kind of like a lane flex there. But I don't know. I think New York Nutbusters definitely has chances to win the series against QC. I think there's just a bit more knowledge kind of needed to figure out how to draft there. I feel like Rat kind of got the download on the Aurora after the first two games and was just able to do whatever he wanted in the third one. I think maybe just like any work on expanding Alana's champ pool to just include a couple more just so that there's variety. I feel like the consistency of the mid lane matchup kind of allows you to feel more comfortable because you can pick up on like patterns in your opponent's playstyle, especially when you're at such a high caliber of player. Like you're noticing things about their gameplay that they don't even notice about it, and you're going to be able to punish it. If you throw up just like a mix up of the champ somewhere in the series, even that could just help a little bit.
Yeah, and that's not to say that
Could be
Alana
interesting.
hasn't had good performances on Aurora in the past. They definitely
Yeah.
have.
Yeah,
This
I'm
was always
literally
going to be a
just
hard
saying
matchup into
repetition.
Rat, but
Yeah.
I do think that I think Aurora is a difficult champion to pull off because it's a strong champion, but I feel like it requires you to play aggressively. Like if you're not playing aggressively in lane, I think there are better champions. Like it can win almost any lane if you play it super aggressively, and it just that doesn't really come across as their play style. At least it didn't come across in that series, which I think is fair. Like I think you want to try to just hold your own as best you can into someone like Rad who's picking these aggressive picks. But I think with that play style, something like Malzahar, which was banned, obviously would have fit that bill a little better. And I'm not sure what else is in their champion pool, but something that can be a little bit more stable, consistent, probably a better chance there. But overall, like a good series by Nutbusters. That game two, especially, was just a really strong showing, and I don't think they should be too discouraged after this loss. I expect them to kind of get back on track with whoever they're playing against next week.
Yeah, for sure. I am just gonna pull up uh, something real quick. I kind of want to illustrate how the kind of two groups have melded together after this first crossover between the two of them, and then I think we can hop into predictions and take another look at the meta. I'm not sure if too much has changed, but we do have 4 more series in there, and I think a total of 10 more games. So there's definitely more that's going to be around. But here, let me see if I can't do a little drawn for us. But okay, here we go. So what we had previously is we had 2 groups. We had 1T, and then QC was below them, then RS, then SKT. And then on the other side, we had NYMB, who was undefeated, and then shoot, I forget who won the middle between. I think Metabusters, Inferno, and then Metabusters had also played BB and beaten them. Is that correct?
Uh,
That literally just happened. Yes. Okay.
yes, yes, yes,
Sorry,
yes.
I'm really tired. But so these were kind of the orders that we'd seen, where the two middle teams had played each other, and the top team had won both games. I'm just going to pencil in little lines here, just so that we know which they've actually played, because it's not actually the same on both. I don't think it had been this, and then Metabusters and BB and QC and Rift Sharks. So we kind of had the same situation on both sides, where the top team had played the bottom team, and then each team had beaten the team directly below them, and kind of the pecking order. Here, let me drag this over so we can see it more clearly. And then if what we do here, which is not necessarily entirely accurate, but we kind of take what we have here And then, oh, I'm doing this all wrong. Hold on. Oh, I was drawn on the wrong layer. That's what it was. You know, that's okay. Let me just real quick. Oh, that's awful. I'm so sorry. Here we go. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that if we take this other side and just kind of insert it with New York Nutbusters below QC, then this could be what the actual kind of power rankings are at this point. I think there could be some mismatching that happens here. Just because of the way the teams line up isn't going to be set. I think New York Nutbusters versus Rift Sharks is going to be a huge one to watch. I think Rift Sharks versus BB is going to be a fun one to watch when we can see it. I think just based on what people have been saying, I doubt Metabusters versus SKT is really going to be a series to watch. But SKT versus Inferno is another one that I want to see. So I think it just kind of highlights this middle ground. And 1T, if this is all to be trusted, which I'm not sure it is, they're kind of a step above everyone else because QC just took out the top team from the other half, and One Thief was able to beat QC. So does this mean that One Thief is untouchable, or are they going to kind of be challenged by some of the other teams? So just kind of looking at this kind of ranking order, and I do want to know your opinion too. I think the ones to watch are going to be some of these matchups I'm going to write over here. I think One Thief versus New York Nutbusters is really fun to watch. I think NYMB, Rift Sharks. I think Rift Sharks, BB, SKT, Inferno. And then, I don't know. I think we've already mentioned that QC Metabusters could be a big one to watch too. But yeah, I don't know. Those are kind of my big four matches that I'm excited to see as they come up. If you want to throw some in the ring too, just so we have some stuff to kind of focus on. If there's anything
like
I
other
missed.
matches that are exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, BB Nutbusters obviously I think will be a really exciting one. I think that'll be a pretty close one. The ones you've listed I think are going to be awesome all across the board. But those are kind of those five. I don't know. I'm having trouble thinking of any other ones.
We'll throw Metabusters QC back in there because that was just one you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. That one is going to be great. But yeah, these are probably the ones that stand out to me the most. I mean, Rift Sharks versus Metabusters is like the longest standing rivalry still in the server, and that one's always a banger. So
yeah, that one we know isn't coming for a while though, so I'm kind of less focused
that
on
that one will be fun though. But these are all going to be great.
Just looking at what we have pulled out though, I feel like that kind of brings out this pack of teams that's kind of vying for like third, fourth, fifth. If any of this is to be trusted, but I think this like realm of NYNB, BB, Rift Sharks, I feel like all of those games should be really exciting, and maybe this is going to be a battle that goes through the season. So something to look out for. And maybe One Thief starts dropping. They beat QC that looked basically nothing like they did the next 2 weeks afterwards, and beat SKT, who's kind of on the bottom. So I'm definitely excited to see how their next games go, but literally anything I say can and will be used against me after we play them on Tuesday. So I'm going to shut my mouth before I say anything stupid, but we can
as you're aware though, like with always, being top four is an extremely big deal in the playoffs because you get that you to be part of that double elimination bracket, whereas if you're seeded 5 or 6, one loss and you're done. As you saw last season, that doesn't mean you can't make a run. Metabusters ran all the way from, I think, 6th seed to 2nd. Like, they lost in the grand finals. So, it's possible, but it's always nice to have that that extra little cushion. So getting that top 4 is huge. And I think those 3 teams you kind of circled right now, if you're assuming that QC remains on form and that One Thief is strong, then, you're looking at probably one team out of BB, Rift Sharks, and Metabusters to or excuse me, BB, Rift Sharks, Metabusters, and Nutbusters to like a couple of those to be looking for the third and fourth spot super aggressively.
Yeah,
So I think
actually,
all
I
those
think I
games
think
are
your
going to be
misspeak
big.
actually made more sense than what you were going to say. I think one team out of Metabusters, Big Bananas, and Rift Sharks is probably going to be vying for that fourth place spot. And I feel like NYMB is a pretty strong contender just from how they've looked out the gate. But I mean, anything can change, and I think those four teams are kind of the solid middle pack here. But we're definitely going to have to see how it goes. And I don't know. I think Rift Sharks versus One Thief is definitely going to be the series to watch this week, because if that upset comes through, then I think everything we said is pretty much invalid. But the three that we have coming up, we have Big Bananas versus SKT, Metabusters versus QC, and Rift Sharks versus 1T. And I feel like these are all big ones to watch. We can just kind of do rapid fire predictions because we're a little over on time already. But Big Bananas versus SKT, I'm gonna get a little bold here. I'm gonna say it's a 2-1 for Big Bananas. I think SKT is gonna grab their first game of the season in this series.
You know, historically, Apari has put up some of his best games against Mason.
Right, but Mason's
So,
not playing.
oh, Mason is so scared he's dodging the matchup. That's my narrative.
No,
Don't tell me otherwise. Don't, nope, nope. Don't give a real
SKT
reason.
SKT did not want a free win versus Mason, so they only listed their availability when Mason wasn't available. They knew that playing against Mason would be too easy.
Well,
Obviously.
I don't know. I have no idea what BB's roster will end up looking
Oh
like.
yeah,
I
me
will
neither.
think. I do assume that it won't be as strong as their starting roster. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know what their roster will look like.
I
So,
mean, they do have
but
Bappo on the bench too, so that's like something to look
oh,
forward to. So like,
Bappo's a pretty strong player.
yeah, like we can see something like Bappo, Nishan,
Oh, they have
Juan,
Juan
Archived
too.
Eden, or I don't know. This could
Oh
be
wow,
this
something
could
like
get
that could be
scary for
exciting.
sure.
Well, 2-0 Big Bananas.
Okay. Well,
Even still.
I have hope.
And now
But
they don't have Mason, so like as you just said, it won't be a free win because it won't be Apari beating
yeah.
Mason. So I think it's
Oh,
going to
true,
actually be a
true,
tougher
true.
matchup for them without Mason. And yeah, I don't know. I also predicted the BB2O last week and they lost, so maybe I'm helping SKT with this prediction, but I will stick with the BB2O.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving
Metabusters
on
Formless
to
Killers, though, yes,
yeah,
this one's going to be awesome.
yeah.
Things I'm most excited for, assuming that rosters stay kind of what they've been the last couple weeks. I think Drakkar versus Snow will be an extremely exciting matchup. I think Rat versus Fuger will be an extremely exciting matchup. As I've already said, Corn versus Chow, an extremely like across the board, all those matchups are going to be fire. This is the harder one to predict. I think I'm gonna predict 2-1 Qualmless
Okay,
Chillers.
that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I think they're gonna pull it out. I think their ability to flex both roles and champions, as well as just their coordination that I've seen, is a little bit above Metabusters right now. But the way Metabusters had played in their last series, as well as the game two that Qualmless Chillers showed, I definitely don't think it's improbable that Metabusters takes a game, and I expect all of the games to be fairly competitive, even if it ends up being a 2-0 or a 2-1. I expect hopefully all three games to end up being pretty competitive, but that's going to be an exciting series. I'm gonna pray I can watch that one live because that's going to be a banger.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately going to be driving, so I will not be able to.
Yeah, we
I
need the
am
we need the radio cast. When are we getting the
heartbroken.
radio cast to go with
Yeah,
the
I don't know.
stream?
I've definitely like some of Genji's matches at MSI. I just like turned on Twitch while I was driving, threw the phone down, and just listened to him. Perfectly listenable. I don't know. It really depends on the caster for Scrims.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
some of those
lie.
professional casters are
Um,
a level above, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Well, see, some of us are just such visual casters. Like you can't get the true experience of a Honen cast without getting to watch it. You know. So I don't know. I think it depends on the caster, but I mean, maybe I'll have that going. Maybe I'll just listen to music and watch when I get home. I'll have to see. But that one's gonna be an absolute banger. And then Rift Sharks versus One Thief. I mean, have to default predict Rift Sharks 2-0, but I think it's going to be a really Really good series. I'm looking forward to it.
Um, yeah, I think Rift Sharks One Thief is going to be an insanely good series.
It's
Anytime I
okay.
go up against
Unfortunately,
Sarverus, it's always really, really fun.
yeah.
For the
It'll be
last few
weird that he's
seasons
not
now.
on Andromeda anymore. Like that just I don't know. It
I mean, I, I've
feels off.
so for anyone that hasn't been in the server, when I first joined the server, which I believe was season 6, was like the first time I played a full season, or maybe it was 7 actually. But
You joined
I
in season 5 and played one series and
okay,
then played a full season in
yeah,
season
the first
6.
time I played a full season in season 6, I was actually on a team with Sarverus. He was playing AD carry at that time. I was playing mid. We had a really strong season. We ended up winning. So I mean, I've known this guy well before the server. Like we go back a long ways. Really good friend. It's always fun. After that season, I left that team because
Oh
he
wait,
wanted to go mid.
I was off.
There
It's
wasn't
season 6
this
was your first one. Is that what we said?
season 6 is the first time I played full time.
Yes. And then
And
season
yeah, so
5 you
with
played a
Sarvis here,
series.
and
Yeah.
you'll see, like we had great performances, great team. But
Yeah.
after that season, he
Won the
wanted
season.
to go mid, so I kind of got booted. And ever since then, every time we've played, it's always fun. It's always competitive. I definitely consider him like one of my biggest rivals in the server, especially now that Tushini is no longer in the server. Always thought it was kind of the three of us in mid lane.
Yeah.
He's gone now. It's me and Sarverus. I have traditionally gotten the edge on him, but I never take him lightly. Plays really well. I do think this is the strongest team that Sarverus has had around him since that lane swap. I think having Dave down there in the bot lane to back him up is just a really huge carry threat that gives that team a lot of power. They've looked really strong. It's going to be fun across the board. I we've kind of already leaked it in season discussion, but it sounds like Psycho Carrot may get to play his first series of the season, which that'll be very,
You know,
very exciting.
maybe
If
he'll get some sort
so,
of new disease again and won't be able to. Anything can
yeah, he
happen.
was supposed to play last series and then he just got sick all of a sudden. So you never know with that guy, but that's gonna be fun. Like that's must see TV if Psycho Carrot gets to play. Um, Evan versus Dave has historically been last season a really exciting matchup.
Yeah, a lot of fun champ pool overlap there. I think even
Yeah,
more so going into this season. So I think that will just be fun draft wise. But I don't know. Lots to look forward to for sure.
but I will say Rift Sharks 2-0.
Yes,
And that's
because
what I
of the
got to
blood
say there.
contract I signed upon starting a podcast, not because we are that much of an ego. Let's be clear here.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Hey, the stats don't lie. The stats don't lie.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
Stats don't lie. We're in the 6th slot right here, and Monteith is in the 1st slot.
The stats do not lie. Hey, we both beat SKT, and
That's
they beat
true.
QC. We did not. So we've actually
Yeah,
played the same team
the
so far,
teams.
which is
Yep.
kind of fun.
So we're like really set up to like look like fools for talking the way we are. But let's see. Let's let the game speak for itself. We'll see. Quick check in on the MVP standings. Rat is at the top. Mike and Blake tied for second. No one else has gotten more than one. Not super surprising there. They've both also played more series than anyone else, so that's not necessarily anything crazy here. Syndra, Yunar, Braum, Smolder, Aurora are the highest presence. Aurora definitely up there because, again, NYMB has played more games than anyone else. But I don't know.
Rat looking really, really good though, and it's cool. He's gotten one of those MVPs I believe was on his Jungle Kindred game. So in
Yeah.
multiple roles, already looking like a potential flex player candidate if he keeps that up all season. Looked absolutely insane so far. Mike didn't have his best showing this last week, playing into probably the toughest jungler he's going to play against. Excited to see more from him, but a lot of great performances by a lot of different players. It's fun when you see really spread out MVP votes. I feel like the last couple seasons, it's been spread out a lot more than maybe it was a few seasons before that.
Well, we can check. I forget how
Oh,
far
don't.
back
All right, was
we've
I making this up? Who
been
knows? We'll
tracking
start.
this.
I'm thinking like when I showed
Didn't
up for
exist in
six.
season 1 or season 2 or season 3. It should have existed. Oh, it did exist. Okay, wait. Did I scroll wrong? Did it exist in season 3? No, it didn't. Okay, season 4, we had 8 three fives, a four, three, and then not a lot of ones. So it was very popular MVPs, kind of a cluster. A lot of people with three or higher. Into season 5, we had two eights, a seven, fives, fours, threes, and then better, but not great. Going down into season 6, again, 8, 7, 6s, and then this has a sharp drop off. A bunch of people with twos and ones, but there's a big clump up here. Heroic, Gruer, Cam, Sarvers, and Rex basically getting all of them. And then kind of a smattering down there. Into season 7, it's now on the other side because I guess all the teams with the long names don't play each other anymore. This one was actually super spread out, I feel like. Pretty solid curve. You had the most, I had the second most, and then we had 3 people tied with 4, but highest MVP count only being 6 is pretty low. Then we had our 5-team season, which was, I think, the evenest it's ever been. The most anyone ever got was 3, and that is a 5-way tie between me, Korn, Fujer, Sarvers, and Stav, then a bunch of 2s and 1s. But keep in mind that there were also a lot fewer games this season because it was only 5 teams. And then into season 9, I think Sarvers, Mason, and Juan were all kind of at the top, and then we had it pretty smoothed out. So I kind of forget what your whole core point was, but we are pretty spread out this season.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's been a little more smoothed out than maybe I was giving it credit for in the past, but it's always fun when it is that way. A lot of great performances.
Yeah, for sure. Just taking a quick look at the meta again, our top presence champions, I think I just ran through. Just looking at bans, Syndra, Kane, Kiana, Zed, Yunara, Twitch are all kind of up there. Some of this is just because of teams that have played a lot, like the Kane, Kiana, Zed is just because of the high number of games from QC, I feel like. Yunara and Smolder both being high presence in the AD carry role. I feel like stands out. 12 Syndra bans. There's a couple people who are the culprit for this one.
9-1 is crazy though, with a 9 KDA.
Disgusting. Yeah, and if we look at the top performing champions just based on KDA here, it's Silas, Smolder, Viego, Zed, and Braum. Zed actually has a 5.8 KDA and a loss. That one was Snow, I believe. But just the fact that 10 games and it's 9.3 KDA is just disgusting. And these champions are all super exciting to watch. Maybe not Braum, but
I think Smolder's exciting to watch.
I think it's fun when he goes poof, and then everyone disappears. Smolder's fun to watch after 25 minutes. What about that?
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I'm really just eyeing up the Viego and the
Viego and Silas are very fun champions to watch.
Wait. I did something wrong here.
Don't believe Ezreal should have an infinity KD.
It's because we hit. Okay, the sorting isn't perfect. Malzahar's really good too. Then Caitlyn is. For some reason, when they don't have games, it actually doesn't properly sort across them, which is interesting. So let me sort by picks and then sort by KDA, and then here's the true KDA sort. Okay, interesting. And fun bug on the website that doesn't work. But Ezreal and Seraphine have both been played twice and haven't died. Tom Kench, Zeri, Cho'Gath, Jace, but people with actual amounts of games, it is the Silas. Talia's looked good on a couple games. Kind of going down here. Caitlyn's looked really solid, 4-1. Maybe looking at the win rate is a bit of a better tell here, but yeah, kind of the same thing that we were looking at before with the messed up sort. But again, this is broken. I'm wondering what happened here. So I don't know. Fun coding bullshit. I probably fucked something up, but whatever. I think we could just end the podcast after I've completely bungled the stats code. I don't know. It is what it is.
Make sure. Well, what days are the series? I guess you could shout those out.
Yes. Oh, it's probably just a divide by 0 error. If I look at the console, am I getting a crap ton of error? No, I'm not at all even. So who knows? whatever. This is my own problem to fix. But yeah, so Big Bananas and SKT is happening on Friday. And then Rift Sharks or Metabusters versus QC is on Monday. And then Rift Sharks versus One Thief is closing out the week on Tuesday. And then we should have a fun set of 4 games that next week. NYMB versus Rift Sharks, that's a big one to look forward to. Depending on how RS versus One Thief goes, I think Big Bananas versus One Thief could be really exciting too. If One Thief just absolutely bodies us, I think just based on the little ladder that we've seen, I think One Thief would be predicted to kind of smash BB too. QC versus Alberts should be fun. SKT versus Metabusters should be fun, but I think NYMB versus Rift Sharks is probably going to be the big one to look forward to. Again, unless we get completely embarrassed by One Thief, then these might be 4 really uneventful series. So
I gotta adjust. I'm adjusting my prediction. 2-1 Rift Sharks over One Thief. I'm adjusting it. Let that be said. Let that be known. 2-1.
Okay, I mean, I'm saying 2-0, but I'm also saying it literally means nothing, and I don't stand by it. So
I stand by the 2-1.
Oh, okay. Gruer's putting the pressure on me. I'll just lock Asante 3 games and like end up 0-15 every single time, and we'll still end up winning, I guess.
If that's what it takes.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching. We will call it here. Appreciate y'all staying on for the longer podcast. But peace.